an Oak Creek to try out a new method for mobile tracking solo. So I've got the mobile reader in the backpack there. There's the antenna. I'll sync up the reader's time with my phone, and I'll be logging or interfacing with the reader with the phone that's now in my hands. And I've rigged up the tripod to the hip chain, put the phone into the bracket and get pictures and or video, and I'll use an app that does time stamping. And so then as I make detections, I hear the chirp going, I can either snap photos or take video of this as I go. And that's the idea anyway. We'll see whether it actually works. Knockwood seems to be working well enough, and you don't have to stop and record every number by hand, and you don't have to rely on some kind of GPS. Even if it's a good GPS, it's going to have trouble down here in the creek under the canopy, and just relatively narrow valley to begin with, canopy, stream banks. Can be done with a single person. Mobile tracking, it typically requires at least two people, because we're typically recording the tags as they go by on the screen by hand, just to have that extra record. And I think it's just a redundancy that, while kind of nice, is ultimately, wasteful in terms of person hours. I can do this by myself, and just makes it that much more feasible in general to use this system. I'm up against a big old bramble jam and getting some readings, but I'm not going to be able to get in there. There's a bit of a hole between the bank and the bramble jam root wad. Not going to be able to get in there. One potential problem here is that since I'm not watching the numbers on a screen, I don't know how many different tracers I'm detecting right now, but the thread got a bit pulled out here. The backtrack up the side channel. See when it starts going again. I suspect there will be a bunch of them here. I'm at a gravel bar just downstream of a log jam constriction kind of spot, so the type of place where stuff's gonna end up stopping for a while. Got the gravel bar back under these branches. And there the hook chain started back up again, so wasn't too awfully pulled out. Let's see where I'm coming from. There's the jam I crawled under. There's a side channel back over that way. I thought I've been recording for a while now. I don't know. Alright, well, there's been a bunch of detections prior to this, so that kind of thing should just have to come out in the wash of this particular method. We'll see. So now I'm in a gravel bar downstream of that. There's been quite a few detections here from about 196 meters up to this point. But the thing is, the 196 might be a bit of an overestimate because of the thread being pulled out. Sandy gravel bar here. Oh wow, I'm way up on the sandy part of the bar here. Still on that bar. Big log jam. Here's the log jam I'm sitting on. Trying to get over, you can see the bar over there and this deep pool, sort of for fishing with the antenna. Here we are, distance. View upstream, view downstream. So over the jam, that bar is gravel bar here, and downstream of this big log jam. Got a bit of a gravel bar, also a scoured chute upstream of some logs. Fine bar on one side of this jam and a coarse bar on the other. Chose to take the coarse deep side instead of the dry fine side. Bunch of steel there in the channel. It's an interesting outcrop. Oh, a weird boulder bar right here. Big hole, pool. Dry gravel bar. At the exit to the bypass flume. There we go. Got a big wide spot in the channel here. Huh? So back in the fall we put 1,600 tagged pieces of gravel in the stream. So I'm trying to find them again. I've got a camera here looking at a device and trailing a thread that's ticking off meters. The only way I could figure to do this solo was to have a timestamp video simply looking right down at the indicator. So we'll see how that works. But yeah, I'm definitely finding some of them. Always gotta be nice when people ask what the hell you're doing. Even when it's like, oh my god. Sometimes it's more of an effort than others. It's cool. It's cool. It's one of the nice things about doing the work here is there are a lot of people that go by. A lot of them will ask what's going on. And you get to tell them. There's a little bit, it's like the videos I've made, there's a little bit to get towards getting the public engaged in science, or at least feeling engaged enough that I believe that's one of the tracers right there. Yep, that's one of them. Thought that was a tracer, but that's actually a piece of basalt with scolarite stuck to it. And here we are. I gotta fucking go. There's my distance there. If we look here, there's a nail. It's culvert plus 459.7. It's pretty damn close. Alright, I gotta go. So this is where I'm standing where I left off last time. The nail is 459.7 when we were deploying. So I'm going to tie off on the nail and step to the center of the channel and make that 0. One of the first things I did just now was drop this phone with which I am recording now into the creek. That was a pretty awesome moment. Luckily, the Pixel 2 seems to, as advertised, have reasonable water resistance. I cut up my hands ridiculously last time. Really managed to give myself some nice cuts on the various blackberries and whatnot last time. Not wearing gloves. I should have learned my lesson 20 years ago on that. And step into the center of the channel. 0 again. Oops. Like I managed to run into my own thread already and pull out about the better part of a meter without moving from the nail, so FYI, F my eye. Coming up on antenna number 1. And I'm standing now in the middle of the antenna. First couple meters of this business, I would of course pull out thread just walking across the channel. It seems that I'm pretty much done with far enough downstream of my tie-off point to not be dealing with that anymore. Getting some hits right up on the gravel bar. I had a piece of rebar here, one of the painted pink and white pieces. There's a little gravel bar behind this log jam here, getting some detections on it. One of the things I'm most interested in seeing is whether the concentration of tracers remain similar to how we deployed as the various tracers move from upstream and some move downstream and so on. As we get something like a diffusion of this long square wave that we've deployed, does it work out like we envisioned, that we get movement of that square wave? Of course, not individual grains will go different distances and so on. We don't expect the grains to move along in lockstep, but that on average, we hope at least, that the concentration will stay the same as the square wave moves through. Alternatively, it could clump up to some degree. Of course, it could also clump up to a large degree, or it could just move through a lot more rapidly than we would want, and thereby leave the tracer concentration here relatively low. I think some clumping up is inevitable. I think given how far we went upstream this time with our deployments for the 3 grain sizes that we did deploy this year, I think movement of the square wave past the antennas is unlikely. In our deployment of fall 2016, I think we way underestimated the distance upstream that we should go with our square wave. Perhaps this year we overdid it. Who knows? We'll see. I mean, pretty dramatic difference in the distance upstream that we went in 2016 versus this year. You know, this year we started more than 450 meters upstream of the first antenna. Last year, in 2016, maybe just a couple of tens of meters upstream of that first antenna, and we did indeed have a whole lot of our, especially the smallest grain size, move out of the reach within the first event. A while back, past the little tributary from the road culvert thing, passing through a bend where it's scouring out on the left bank. Very clayey, indurated stuff. There we go. Let's see, the tributary from the road right there. Coming up on a nail. Right now I'm at the nail. Try to loop off on that nail in a sec as soon as I get a little slack. My idea is generally I don't want to pull out additional distance on the hip chain in order to tie off on the thread, on the nails. Anyway, I'm also at a piezometer here. There we go. Piezometer. Now I'll tie onto that nail without pulling out thread. Should be a little bit greater sensitivity now to my moving back and forth across the channel for a bit. Got a bit of a bar here on the left bank now. Sort of grass growing into it. There's the tree with the nail. And here's the bar on the left bank. I've been getting some stuff up on bars. I doubt I'll get up into the vegetation there, but we'll see. First detection, the antenna's down into the lower part of the unvegetated part of the bar. See, I am at a piece of flagging. It says end of 32 to 64 millimeter deployment, 12/6/18, 65.5 meters from day's tie off. That is, this would have been where we ran out of the larger of the three grain sizes we deployed this year, 32 to 64 millimeter size class. We ran out of them right here. We deployed on 2 different days, the 18th of November, and the second day was the 6th of December. That's what the date on that flag is. And looking back at the October mobile tracking data, October 2018 mobile tracking, there were still some of that size class downstream of here, but the concentration dropped off. There was some overlap between where we deployed and where there were already previously grains in that size class. From here on down, the concentration as of the beginning of rain in 2018-2019, or the 2019 water year, was lower. The concentration of those grains was lower through here. It'll be interesting now to see what it is, whether it's still lower or whether we've had enough movement of the square wave to fill it in, maybe even make it higher than upstream due to the ones that were already here. Another thing, I'll be kind of interested to see how much our data will tell us, whether there's any appreciable difference in mobility between stuff that was deployed in 2016 and has therefore been in the stream for a number of high flows versus stuff deployed in 2018. And if there is a difference in mobility, how long does it last? That is, we might expect, since all the 2018 grains were simply dropped on the surface, you might expect a difference in that first event, but then with just a bit of movement, perhaps after that first event, there might not be any appreciable difference in mobility. Those differences are really going to be just due to the difference between grains that are literally sitting on the surface versus grains that are incorporated into the active layer, and where that active layer thickness is typically sensitive to the transport rate. That is, at marginal transport rates, the active layer is going to be very thin. At higher transport rates, it's going to be thicker. And of course, it's going to be variable in space, depending on what you think of as the active layer. You include anything that was deposited during, say, the same event. Is that by definition active layer or no? I think in general, no. There was a somewhat larger concentration in the vicinity of antenna 1 of the largest particles due to the different years deployments. So, do we see a difference in count rate that's above and beyond the difference due to the different concentrations of the 2-year cohorts of deployment? That is, got a concentration of 2016 grains and a concentration of 2018 grains. Are the count rates of the 2 grains proportional to those different concentrations or not? The biggest log jam in the reach. And here we are also at there's a tube there. I don't know offhand what's in that tube, if anything. It might be one of our level loggers. There's a nail over by that height. You note that I am now even with the nail pretty much. And here we get the distance, 48.8. Still standing right next to the nail. Still at the nail. Tie off on it once I get enough slack here. Tie off 49.2 past the nail. Oh, a lot of friggin' wood. Another one of the graduated rebar rods on the left. Graduated rods on both sides here. One on the right bank has orange and white, fluorescent green cap, and a blue thing strapped to it. About to pull even with another graduated rod. And now even with that rod. And approaching antenna 2. I just decided to restart the video so I wouldn't be shooting upside down of the antenna. So I'm standing right here next to that rod. There's the other bank. There's my antenna. And there's antenna 2. Back to it. Just upstream of antenna 2. I'm standing right in the middle of the antenna. So, yeah, 60.1 meters. I'm standing at the fence post now. Check this out. This piece of scolarite. And hope I'm getting that name right. Coming up on a fence post at the left bank. It says 60 meters SC. Graduated rod at the left bank. The flag on it says 12 with a box around it. WSE 12, so water surface elevation 12. Piece of PVC, nothing in it. Looks like it might have been used as a stake, so I'll stake it back where I found it, just for the hell of it. Left bank tree with a nail. Piezometer attached to the downstream end of the side of the tree. 71.0. Now I'm tied off to the tree upstream end of that the bar that's near the box. Appears to be a tracer way up on the bar here. Coming up on another graduated rod, pink and white with a green cap. Another one on the high bar. Part of me always wants to see if I can put my finger on it. The reality is a lot of them aren't going to be visible. Coming up on a nail, the right bank. Now pretty much even with the nail. Put that out. There. There's the nail. Tied off now. And now even with another graduated rod, pink and white. Now coming up to the second one right next to it, orange and white. I see a piezometer. Upstream side of the tree just ahead of me. We're coming up onto the restricted part of this reach. And the issue is simply in walking through it, I'm likely to scrape off some of the paraffite and on some of the rocks and throw off her measurements. On the other hand, don't think it's tenable for me to simply skip that part of the channel in terms of figuring out where the gravel's going. I don't know, but I tend to think that we're late enough, long enough after the last high water that I'm not going to foul anything up. I'll just try to keep my footsteps out of the channel as much as possible. Alright, now just downstream of the tree with the piezometer, coming up on another piezometer and another nail on the right bank. It's kind of interesting to find out just now that there are a significant number of tracers deposited on the emergent part of this gravel bar. So now about even with that piezometer, if that's what it is. It doesn't have a cap on it. It's totally full of sediment. Interesting. Alright, now even with the nail's got blue and white flagging, no markings for distance. At some point we gave up on marking these. Also, even with the graduated rod with another one of those blue cylinder instruments on it. Let's get a picture. That thing there. Don't know what it is. Even with another graduated rod. Tie off on the nail now. Tied off to the nail. Tied off. Oh shit. Accidentally turned off the damn logger. Fuck. Alright, logger had accidentally been turned off. I think just while I was tying off. So I'll have to redo the last sweep or so. I did a... Oh shit, gotta start logging. Okay, so right here, where I'm standing right about now, is where I was when I tied off. I think where it said 88.1. Crossing the channel, of course, drawing out the thread. Kind of taut right now. Looks like we're back on track here. And I'm now at the small tributary entrance. That trib is it dry? Not exactly dry, no. One of the things I've been wondering about is whether we could use that trib as a pico hydropower source. Snagged on a willow. Gonna tend to draw the thread out. It's a bit tricky keeping this sweep straight or appropriately canted in the right direction as I go through this sharp part of the bend here. Just past the bent over fence post near the downstream end of the bar and coming up quickly on the upstream end of the restricted reach. I'm gonna have to check the battery in the nick of time. It's down to 7%. Or at least if we do, hopefully I catch it right away. Alright, 107.0. Let's get back to it. Past that steel barrel on the left bank, a meter or two past that. Still trying to keep my steps out of the left side of the left half of the channel, reaching over on about the channel center line at this point to cover the left side. All legs shifted to the right, so I'm going to shift to the left where there's some emergent gravel. Same method as before, but now keep left of this channel center line. Well, that was too bad. Had the camera power off, so I missed a meter. Looks like the last frame on the video before it cut out was 117.2. Not so bad. Looks like I caught it pretty quickly. Restarted the logging. I'm just about up to the end of the restricted reach. Now scanning right under the rope. Now stepping right up to the rope. And under the rope. I'm about even with a piezometer right here. Right up against the tree that leans out over the flow. This tree here. I've stepped even to the nail right now. Tie off now. I'm tied off now. Even with a fence post. Graduated pole here with a green cap. Flagging says WSE2. Coming up on a fence post that has a rope on it that used to be the downstream end of the restricted reach. Scanning right underneath that right now. Coming up on antenna 3 pretty soon here. There's antenna 3, bridge. Walking, standing right in the middle of the antenna, 141.5, so about even with another graduated rod, orange and white with green cap on the right bank. Standing right about abreast of the upstream edge of the bridge. Squatting under the bridge. Topped out on the downstream side of the bridge. So it's a tree with the cable, and the end of the cable is attached to a short length of PVC pipe, presumably with a logger in it. You hear the rushing, falling water of the weir. Getting close to the standpipe that has Mary Sentelman's level logger, I believe. So standing even with the standpipe that has the level logger in it. Almost to the weir. I'm walking right along the upstream edge of the weir. We are downstream edge, middle of the weir. Right here. Flag says 633.1. Probably need to go down this bit here. Alright, I am down. And now I'm going to scan right below the lip of the weir if I can. Not sure I'm going to be able to get in the deepest part of this pool. Trying, but... Damn video stopped. Downstream end of the pool. Log jams. Negotiate here. Ooh, and a nail. Tied off now on the tree. This whole square wave idea works the way we think But at some point, even maybe now, there ought to be significant reach downstream of the weir that has as high a concentration of tracers as our currently instrumented reach. Thinking to myself, it makes sense to put a fourth antenna downstream here, second, maybe even put a second reader downstream, third, move the current reader downstream to follow the wave. Small tributary on the right bank that was. Okay, log jam, boulder, berm on the road, and nail. Tying off on the nail, and I'm right above it. Come back to Oak Creek to do some more mobile tracking with my setup on the camera on the hip chain, but after complaining a lot about the previous device, I've fashioned something out of wood. I do a little bit of wood carvings, and I also have a tripod that has this other mount for it, and so I've carved a slot for the clip to go onto this rigid piece so that it doesn't bend and shake. This won't be flexible at all. I won't be able to turn the camera while it's in the clip, but should be better overall. Here we are with the timestamp video, and now the camera mounted in its new wooden piece. Still going to have some issues with glare, but shouldn't have issues with the field of view on the counter changing and that kind of thing. Alright, I'm at the 460 meter pin nail, and my thought is that I've probably missed some on the upstream end, a little bit upstream of this, so I'm going to tie off to the nail, step to the center of the channel, re-zero the hip chain, and head upstream for say 10 meters. Should then get some overlap, so these will essentially be negative distances from 460.8, I believe it is, the nail that I tied off to previously on the Friday, April 26th. Stepping to the center of the channel, even with the nail, zeroing. At this point I can see a tracer on the bed. Check out what kind of range I've got now. The tracer on the bed at my about foot level then. I'm holding the antenna so that the center of the rectangle is at about the tracer. So that's about the top of my kneecap that I'm getting the reading. So I'm back at the nail. I'm going to tie off again and do the same deal, step to the center of the channel, zero the dial on the hip chain, and go downstream to antenna 1, which is in sight. Tied off. Alright, now proceeding downstream from the nail. So one of the things I actually want to do is to see whether tuning the antenna provides me more hits through this same reach than last time. Approaching antenna 1. Now standing in the middle of the antenna here at 10.8 meters from the nail. Alright, now I'm at the nail that is at the upstream end of the bend with the bar near the reader. I'm at the nail next to looks like a piezometer tube, Again here I'm going to tie off to this nail, step to the center of the channel, zero it, and work my way down through this bend. There are 2 nails in this bend that I'll need to tie to on the way. Alright, here at this nail next to the piezometer tube, I have tied off, stepped to the center of the channel. Now I will zero the hip chain and proceed through this bend. I expect that distances from this nail will become more consistent with previous as I move along. At first it might be a bit off. Even now with a graduated rod approaching the next nail. See, right here I'm even with that nail. And as usual practice before, I will move a couple meters, say, beyond it before I actually tie to it. Alright, tied. And the usual sensitivity to crossing the channel as I get up on the bar here. And now the thread goes slack as I step back into the channel. Thread still slack. And now about even with the piezometer. So right here, even with the nail, tie off now. I will go till I am standing abreast of the rope at the upstream end of Sammy's Reach. I may have just reeled off a bunch of thread, moving vegetation. And that's one of Sammy's flags. So, standing abreast of her line. And so we'll stop right here. Getting ready to start down where I finished last time on the 29th. The note culvert plus 460 meters plus 305.4 meters STL 429.19. I guess I will just tie the thread to that spot. Zero it standing in the middle of the channel. Okay, I've tied the thread, standing in the middle of the channel. The log in front of me. Let's show that real quick. Yeah, let's see. Oh, and there's another one past that. Happy days. 0. And away we go. Part of the channel that's way up underneath this log jam. Standing on a bedrock outcrop here. Looks like there's a nail right here. This whole reach here is bedrock. First time I've seen that in Oak Creek. Tying off to that nail. Bedrock here. And the nail. Still predominantly bedrock right here. Slightly alleviated reach. A little surprised not to detect any tracers here. Back onto some bedrock. Still bedrock, so lack of tracer, kind of expected. This, I think, is the longest stretch yet with no tracers. Could be wrong, but I think so. I mean, of course, other than the very beginning where I had to wait 25 meters to find a tracer. That is 25 meters downstream of the culvert. This is still pretty much bedrock. Still bedrock. Looks like I'm near the end of the bedrock. I'm headed into a bedrock riffle into a pool. Expect we will start getting some tracers pretty soon now. There we go. There's still a little bedrock sticking out through the gravel. Big bars on both sides. A little trickle trib on the right bank. Should mention that I synced my phone / camera with the reader at the beginning of the day. It won't show up in the log because I have to use a different terminal application than I like to use in order to get a colon on the line come in to set the time. A piece of wood like a 6x12 or something. Significant bedrock knob rib or whatever sticking out of the bed here. Under our root wad here. This would be a fun place to radiocarbon date some stuff I can see in the bottom of the bank there. Largely bedrock bed, but clearly some stuff on top of it. Coming up on another nail. Now even with the nail. Tied off to the nail. Another trickle trib on the right bank. I just paused there for a minute to check that I hadn't missed more than a minute of video. Getting out of bedrock now. Still some bedrock in the bed. Pushing a nail on the top of this big leaf maple. Just about a meter back, maybe more like 1.5 meters is the nail from here. Yeah, tied off now. Slide the antenna through the thread there. Awesome. Just in time, slacks out of the thread. Got a bit of a bouldery section here, dropping some gravel. This is scolecite. $122.1. Some bedrock outcropping right here, and a little bedrock chute and a bar. Oh boy, that bar goes way up there. Okay, approaching another nail on top of the log here. Okay, I'm even with the nail right here. Managed to lose a glove. Managed to pull out a fair amount of thread. I'm going to go ahead and tie this thread to the nail. I'm about abreast with it, but I've got a lot of slacks. Nail's tied. And I'll find another nail. And now, even with the nail. 143.0. Right off and back to it. And that's what I was just trying to work my way through, while scanning side to side. It wouldn't be so bad if I just, had to get through it. Bedrock outcropping here, flows shooting through it. Lots more bedrock. goes upstream, downstream. Still bedrock here. Yeah, hands looking nice and bloody there. 191.9. Alright. Tracers have become rather sparse. Apparently attributable to all the bedrock here. The stream is likely steeper here. There's still a fair amount of gravel amongst the cracks in the bedrock and so on. It's not devoid of funk. So far devoid of my glove. A bit of a gravel bar here, I suppose you could call it. Got some more bedrock here. A rib of bedrock sticking up. Stream going around it on both sides. Step off of that bedrock rib. An actual gravel bar here finally. A little bar here. Looks like coming to the end of the bedrock here. There's still some bedrock here, but it pretty much goes away right about here. And up to another nail. Even up the nail right there. The flagging on it. So like I said, even with the nail right here. Tied off. Good gravel bar here. And that one's way up on the bar. Right about there. See the bar here. To the side. Tributary on the left bank right here. Muck bottom pool here. No getting under there. Hopefully it's just mud under there. Just past a freaking nail. 1.5 meters. I think downstream of the nail. Tie off now. Another bedrock outcrop and Homestead Trail bridge is in sight. There's the bridge. Gravel bar partially emergent upstream of the bridge. A little bit of bedrock here. There's some bedrock here. Hey. How you doing? What's up? Tracking gravel. So I put a bunch of tracers in gravel and
See where it ends up?
Yep.
Nice. Wow, right on.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work.
All right. Take care, have fun. The bridge directly underneath bedrock down here. Channel's pretty deeply incised. The banks are really tall, kind of undermined. There's an inset terrace. Inset terrace there. And you can see it past there with the small trees on it. Even further up. This channel's incised quite a bit and it's widening out. It's hit bedrock. The gravel here is from that inset fill. It doesn't seem that what's coming down the stream is stopping here. Bedrock in the middle of a channel bed. And haven't come across a tracer in a while. Sleeves the bedrock here. What sort of veins are there in there? Could be just weathering, I don't know. To the backwater behind the log jam where I shovel for gravel sometimes. On the gravel bar, the part of the bar upstream of the log jam. A log in the bed, plunge pool on the downstream side. So, this bar downstream of the jam and associated with the jam upstream is apparently not just locally derived stuff. Coming up on a sizable bar. Stream widens back out considerably here. See a nail ahead. On that log, there's a little bit of flagging hanging off around there. At the nail. Go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and tie off on that nail. And according to the topo map and GPS, I am just inside the forest boundary. Coming up on a big log jam. Probably going to be where I turn back. Alright, I'm going to flag this spot. Put a flag on that route there. 459.7. Now I'm back in the near the box. See the shelter over there. Seems like everything went reasonably well today, better than in some ways than previously. The new rig for the camera seemed to work pretty well. There were a couple issues with it, but it only required tending to a couple of times. In the scheme of things, it's not bad at all compared to last time, which was just like a constant need to readjust. And so I made it 460 meters today, plus the redos up here. So close to 500 meters overall. Pretty good. So, good day.